Next on this special edition of Currents News, united against hate following the deadly synagogue shooting. The power of faith on display by Brooklyn Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, and other religious leaders in the city. 2,500 pilgrims from the Brooklyn Diocese headed to Washington, D.C., a pilgrimage honoring the Blessed Mother. A look back. 13 seminarians took a big step on their path to priesthood, plus the Diocese of Brooklyn student making a big difference, what she's doing to help cancer patients. This special edition of Currents News starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Happy Veterans Day to you and welcome to this special edition of Currents News. We are looking back at some of our most memorable stories recently reported by our Currents News team. We begin with a powerful display of strength against the hate that claimed so many lives inside a Pittsburgh synagogue. Brooklyn's Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, and other top religious leaders gather at a well-known Manhattan synagogue in a powerful show of unity. Currents News' Tim Harfman was there.
Over 100 worshipers gathered at the Park East Synagogue to stand together in prayer and unite against hatred.
We stand together as one.
One of many religious leaders in attendance, the Bishop of Brooklyn, Nicholas DiMarzio. He says regardless of denomination, worshipers must be strong following the Pittsburgh shooting.
We can't be afraid to worship. That's one of the basic freedoms we have in the United States. If we stay home because we're afraid of coming to a place of worship, we let those who are purveyors of hate win. So we can't have that happen.
A message echoed by New York's Cardinal Timothy Dolan. Have faith in God during this tragic time.
He wants us not to wallow in mourning, but to behold a fresh morning where his grace and mercy rises unfailingly with his Son.
Wearing United Against Hate t-shirts, students from the neighboring Jewish elementary school lit candles for the 11 men and women killed at Tree of Life Synagogue. Lauren Meyer, who teaches the Manhattan students, grew up in Pittsburgh and attended temple there.
I know a couple of the victims is from, high holidays and Saturday and Sunday mornings there, and it's heartbreaking. They're related to some of my friends, and it's devastating what they're going through.
But for these worshipers, they stand strong in faith.
Our country in many ways seems divided at this period of our history, which is a terrible thing, but we are united in faith. And this terrible tragedy that happened in the Jewish community affects all of us. So we're here today to show our solidarity with one another.
This is a very important message that we need to send to the entire society, that Jews and Judaism is not alone in fighting anti-Semitism, and that other denominations, other religions are going to be with Jews facing the threat.
And at the end of the service, worshipers sang God Bless America and reiterated their message of hope, faith, and to stand together against hatred. On the Upper East Side, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
A journey of devotion to the nation's capital. Pilgrims from the Brooklyn Diocese showed their love to the world's mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Bishop DiMarzio led the 2,500 pilgrims to Washington. Currents News' Katie Angeser was with them.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
The prayers of over 2,000 Brooklynites to the Blessed Mother.
Our Father who art in heaven.
Led by Bishop DiMarzio, the Catholics' journey to the nation's capital. A long trip on a stormy Saturday.
Pilgrimages are meant to be somewhat difficult. We have to go out of our way, out of our normal circumstances of life, to find God and to find Our Lady.
The destination is America's foremost site dedicated to Our Lady, the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. Every 2 years, Catholics from the Brooklyn Diocese make the trip with Bishop DiMarzio leading the way. It's a tradition.
Since 1923, before the edifice was even built, Brooklyn has been here on pilgrimage.
The Basilica is America's largest Catholic church. Nearly 1 million faithful visit each year, and that includes some big figures in the church. The past 3 pontiffs, Pope Francis, Pope Benedict, and St. John Paul II, as well as Mother Teresa, have all been to the shrine. The shrine was built brick by donations from the faithful. The church's latest masterpiece, the Trinity Dome, was completed with help from the Brooklyn Diocese. Over $100,000 contributed. Monsignor Vito Buonanno is a Brooklyn priest who's now the basilica's pilgrimage director. He understands what makes this shrine so special.
This is a place of prayer. This is a place that is sacred.
The shrine isn't the only reason why Brooklynites traveled 5 hours by bus through a nor'easter.
She's done so much for us, so it's the least we could do for her.
For the pilgrims, the shrine is a source of great comfort.
And we come here with joys, with sorrows, with sufferings. We come here with the pain of what the church is going through. We come here with the joys of what the church is going through. We come to our mother.
She'll be the first person I turn to.
In Washington, D.C., Katie Anguser, Currents News.
Next, an exclusive Currents News report about a heroic Catholic bishop. In 1980, Bishop George Palais Parambil was jailed in India simply because he was Catholic. Today, despite the long odds he once faced, he's considered a hero. Currents News' Tim Harfman has that story.
They realized that to be a Christian was nothing wrong. So they just began to be open about it.
Christianity was once banned in the region of India where Bishop George now leads the thriving Catholic Diocese of Miao. Today, 90,000 followers of Christ practice their faith openly. 30 years ago, there was no Catholic presence at all.
I could never imagine that even 1/100th of this would take place in this span of time. All that I can say is, thank God, he has done it.
He's in the Brooklyn Diocese to visit Aid to the Church in Need, a Catholic organization that supports Christians who are suffering and persecuted around the world because of their faith. Almost single-handedly, the pioneering bishop has transformed life in the northeastern part of India, a tribal area known as the state of Arunachal Pradesh. He's built 32 parishes, including a church that features the tallest statue of Christ in all of Asia. He's opened over 40 Catholic schools in the diocese and constructed the region's only hospital.
Some section of the administration was misinformed about Christianity, and so they thought it was something imported. But they realized it is a life of the people.
The heroic cleric also dramatically raised the stature of women and girls.
We also started telling it's not enough that we educate the boys, the girls also must come up. Slowly the society realized girls are equally smart.
Through education, the emancipation of women has transformed tribal society. Women are no longer considered property of their families and are free to choose their own husbands.
Everything that we do must be supported by prayer. Not the time, the length of time that we spend in prayer, but the intensity of it.
When Benedict XVI created the Miao Diocese in 2005, he selected Bishop George to be its first leader. Despite what's been accomplished, the bishop knows there is much more to do, and he needs the help of the villagers who live there.
I always tell them, if these churches and these activities have to go on, we need priests for the future, and they must come from your villages.
In addition to faith-building initiatives that have created a dynamic religious community, Bishop George has brought peace to the region, along with a number of clean water projects, efforts that have helped lift the villagers out of poverty.
That was Tim Harfman with that exclusive report. Bishop George says he is on the road visiting churches and parishioners nearly every day. That's because his diocese is spread out over nearly 17,000 square miles. Now, to put that into perspective, the Brooklyn Diocese covers less than 180 square miles. A New York man is in desperate need of a kidney. Mark Weiner's story mirrors the plight of so many people in the Empire State, patients waiting for an organ donor to step forward. The reality is the process of receiving a kidney could take years. In Mark's case, a Catholic businesswoman learned about his story and hopes her company's Times Square billboard will speed things up. Currents News' Michelle Powers has the story.
Times Square, home to the most foot traffic in the busiest city in the world. But one man's souls weigh heavier than the others.
There we go.
This 5,000 square foot billboard is Mark Weiner's introduction to more than 500,000 pedestrians a day.
Like my wife said, this is a matter of life and death.
The former newsman has 8 seconds to make the pitch of his life before the advertising changes. He needs a kidney, and he needs it now. Back at Mark's home on Long Island, the glow of Times Square feels far away, but the much dimmer reality remains the same.
I almost don't remember anything before. This has become our new normal.
Even though it was only 2 years ago, Mark's wife Lisa can't remember the way it was before. Mark got an aggressive cancer, one that removed his kidneys, prostate, and bladder.
That was when I could go on rides.
This is Adventureland.
Yeah.
Pictures now mark a divide in their lives. Before Mark got sick and after.
Everybody says, oh, you'll go on the list, right? No, the list is 7 to 10 years. He can't wait 7 to 10 years.
It was Lisa's idea to light her husband's face up 24/7, a last resort, but one bright enough to see from space.
You took the train up?
That's where Dawn Del Mastro Kruma comes in. She's been Lisa's friend for decades, and she's the president of the company that owns Mark's billboard. The Catholic offered the whiners the space for free, at 2 minutes an hour, a fee that normally costs $30,000 a month.
This is different because this is a call to action. This is asking people to go do something, and to do something that's very important.
That's Mark's other goal, not only to get a kidney, but more importantly, to raise awareness about the needs and lack of organ donations around the country.
If I get a match tomorrow, I'm hoping all the other people that came forward, they now go into some repository and can be a match for somebody else.
New York may have some of the best hospitals, but it is one of the worst states to be on a waiting list to receive an organ donation. Every year, about 500 New York residents on the waiting list die because of a statewide organ shortage. That's one death every 18 hours. At this moment, there's more than 7,000 people waiting for a kidney in New York State.
Casting such a wide net was so important because you never know why someone might really want to do this.
So Mark's dialysis continues, and it will until he gets a kidney. The average life expectancy for someone on dialysis is 5 to 10 years, though many live well beyond 20.
You see people start to wonder, is this guy going to pull through? Is he getting sicker? Is he going to die? It's the worst.
Mark remains optimistic, going to dinners with his wife and basketball games with his daughter. He's living life. At the same time, he's waiting for it.
There's a reason that we were chosen to go through this, that he was chosen to go through this, that I was chosen to be by his side. You know, there's the saying that God gives you what you can handle. We're on a path that's hopefully going to have the ending that we deserve.
Michelle Powers, Currents News.
And if you would like to learn more about Mark and his story, go to his website, helpmarkfindakidney.com. There's a lot more news headed your way on this special edition of Currents News. An important day for the Catholic Church. Men from the Brooklyn Diocese and elsewhere taking a big step on the path to priesthood. The Lord said, "Let there be light," and the Vatican made it so. A Michelangelo masterpiece is getting the spotlight in Rome coming up. And an inspiration from the 8th grade, a Brooklyn Catholic student hard at work to help cancer patients. An important programming note to share with you too. Currents News will be moving to new time slots. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air a half hour earlier at 7 p.m. right here on net. Reruns will air at 10 p.m. and then the next morning again at 7:30 a.m. So mark your calendars. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special edition of Currents News. We are taking a look back at recent and very memorable stories. Major news involving the priesthood took place this past week. Men from the Brooklyn Diocese and other places near and far taking a big step on the path to holy orders. Currents News' Katie Engerser reports.
For 13 men, this is more than an ordinary mass.
I got emotional from the very beginning.
That's because these seminarians are taking a big step in their lives. They're being ordained transitional deacons, and in about 6 months, if all goes well, they will become priests.
This is something I've been dreaming all my lifetimes.
Laying prostrate on the floor of St. Joseph's Seminary in Yonkers, they pray to the saints for guidance in their new roles. The 13 men include 8 from the New York Archdiocese and the Diocese of Rockville Center, 2 from South Korea's Diocese of Daejeon, and 3 from the Diocese of Brooklyn. They all come from different backgrounds, but each has been waiting for this Saturday.
Watching so many other years of friends of mine now that are priests and watching them do it and now to do the same thing, that definitely hit me.
Actually, I've never imagined to come to the United States or spending my life in other countries, but so it's very great. I mean,
it's a very powerful day. It's a culmination and a beginning.
Bishop John Barris, Rockville Center's Catholic leader, presides over the liturgy. By laying on his hands, he invokes the Holy Spirit on the young men, allowing them to celebrate sacraments such as baptisms and marriages.
Really, I'm just looking forward to being part of a new community.
And the deacons get started right away.
that was baptized there.
After Mass, each deacon is given a letter telling them where they will serve before priesthood. The men of the Brooklyn Diocese see their new assignments as great opportunities.
I was very blessed to be with the parish of Mary Queen of Heaven, which where I'll be going now as a deacon. I was there last summer. People were great, and I'm really looking forward to going back.
But that is Sacred Heart of Jesus and Mary and St. Stephen in Carol's Garden. So yes, I've not really been to the parish. Yeah, so it's a good thing that probably I'm going to experience a new environment.
So I'm going to St. Fidelis in College Point, and Monsignor Heron is the pastor, which is pretty funny because he was the pastor of my home parish when I was a little kid.
Bishop Barris says the deacons will do more than just serve. They will help build the future church in a time of testing for Catholics, coping with the clerical sex abuse crisis.
These young men are stepping up at a really challenging time of church history. The fact that they're following the power of the Holy Spirit is such a great moment for our church and such a sign of hope.
And these soon-to-be priests are looking forward to fulfilling that hope and meeting the challenges ahead. In Yonkers, Katie Anguser, Currents News.
Many books based on the Catholic faith have stood the test of time. But what about today? Can a Catholic novel still thrive? Currents News' Tim Harfman went to the Pauline Books and Media in Midtown Manhattan to find out.
For Sister Neville Christine Forchap and her religious order, the Daughters of St. Paul, Catholic literature is an essential part of their mission.
We sell the Bibles, the Word of God.
Sister Neville is the manager at Manhattan's Pauline Books and Media Store on East 29th Street between Park and Lexington Avenues. She says she knows Catholic literature is alive and well because the faithful are always looking for new ways to grow closer to God.
As long as there's that deep seeking for Christ, there will always be the thriving of Catholic literature, which is the relaying of the faith from generation to generation through the media.
The Order's publishing company, Pauline Books and Media, prints about 40 new titles a year, distributing thousands of copies to nearly a dozen stores across the country. The bookstore receives new shipments every week. Shelves are stocked with books in English and Spanish, ranging from children's themes to biographies of saints. Peter Vera enjoys reading Catholic literature and just started working at the store this week.
When you read a lot of Catholic literature, sometimes you stumble upon a sentence that you're just like, wow, that's powerful, that's a great message. And then when you see that message, you want to give that same message to somebody else.
Samantha Smith is a frequent customer. She travels from her home in Queens to the Manhattan bookstore multiple times a week and says Catholic literature is a key component to everyday life.
Because there's so many kind of nooks and crannies to the faith life now that literature is really almost all-encompassing when you think of how it can develop the faith more deeply.
But Peter admits people like Samantha are becoming harder to find.
There are people who are falling off and not wanting to read a lot of more and to get more, knowledge on our faith. And it's pretty sad.
But these sisters are keeping the faith that readers will continue to get closer to their Savior, one chapter at a time. In Manhattan, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Michelangelo's masterpiece, the Pietà, is getting the spotlight at the Vatican. Literally, the Holy See decided to improve the lighting for the famous sculpture. Sean Richardson has that story.
From now on, contemplating Michelangelo's spectacular The Pietà will never be the same again. The Vatican decided to improve the lighting for this famous sculpture with new LED lights and white undertones. This allows people to focus on all points of this masterpiece. For example, the statue's shadows can be lit up and the light can appear as if it is coming from the sculpture itself. It can also be lit from the front to allow people to see the roughness, plasticity, and artistic skill of the artist. For many, Michelangelo's The Pietà is considered a sculpture of faith. The artist was only 23 years old when he produced this sculpture. It surprised everyone because of the sweet, serene, and young face of the Blessed Mother holding her deceased son in her arms. Michelangelo purposefully sculpted it in this way to show that those who have faith do not grow old.
That was Sean Richardson reporting. Still to come on Currents News, honoring students who have given back. The Diocese of Brooklyn celebrates Mission Sunday. And we tell you the story of one girl who is giving back. She's dedicated to helping cancer patients. We'll be right back. Students and schools assisting the needy were recognized in the Diocese of Brooklyn on October 21st. The annual Mission Sunday Mass awards students from the diocese who have raised money for missionary churches around the world. Altogether, they've been able to collect thousands, and Bishop James Massa was on hand to recognize them. Finally tonight, the story of a little girl devoted to helping others and what she does to make sure cancer patients in treatment are taken care of. Currents News' Tim Harfman has that report.
Sky Workman is an 8th grader at St. Bernard Catholic Academy in Bergen Beach, Brooklyn, and she is dedicated to helping cancer patients losing their hair.
I basically collect fun and new hats to donate to children and now adults. And when I donate the hats to them, they're just happy afterwards.
From beanies to baseball caps, cartoon characters to sports teams, Sky has collected hundreds of hats and raised $1,000 to buy more. Everything's being donated to Cohen Children's Medical Center and Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Sky does this every year. She even has a foundation called Sky's the Limit. Her mother, Claudette, says it started when Sky was in 5th grade and learned about a St. Bernard graduate who lost the fight with cancer.
She came home and she was curious about cancer. And I explained, what the disease is and, the effects of it. And she said, I want to do something to help.
Then Sky's best friend experienced tragedy when her sister died from cancer.
Automatically, I was there for her because I understood what she was going through, because a couple years before that, my aunt had been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Cancer is all too common in the United States. The National Cancer Institute estimates 1 in 3 Americans will contract the disease at some point in their lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
The act of helping others is a foundation of the learning experience at St. Bernard Catholic Academy.
We try to follow what Jesus would do, giving to the needy, helping the poor, helping the sick. So we try to do these fundraisers as often as we can.
It doesn't matter how young you are, you can still help others.
In Bergen Beach, Brooklyn, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
That is this special edition of Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas, and just a reminder that Currents News is moving to a new time slot. Starting Monday, December 3rd, the news will air at 7 p.m. As always, thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Have a happy Veterans Day, and I hope to see you again next time.